Good morning. How are you? We're off to a nice start. This is the last month for my internship experience here. This is the start of it. So it's been a little hectic around our house. My wife and I, we booked our little moving box to move back to Columbus, and we got our apartment paperwork in the mail. We're signing our lease and all that stuff, getting everything in order. And it's nice because there's sort of a lull here at Calvary. Not much of one. You guys are pretty busy all the time. Sort of a lull where I get a chance to kind of get this stuff in order. But it's not really a lull at our house because my daughter, of course, has completely different plans for us. There is no rest for the wicked, I suppose. She's one now. She's a little over one now, like 13 months or something. And she's just learned how that she can get onto the couch and she can stand on it proud as day, just super proud of herself that she can do this. And it's absolutely terrifying, too, because she's moving on it with such confidence, and I watch her tumble around on it and fall, and I was just catching my breath, wondering what to do with this. And not to mention that she's also teething. She's getting her molars in, and nobody told me that when they get molars, it's like 2 weeks of just horror. You know, she's completely inconsolable over everything. So first attempt to get on the couch doesn't work. She's livid, just mad as a rattlesnake. But yeah, she's got this sense, though, that she's invulnerable, right? She's leaping barriers in a single bound. She's reaching the speeds of a locomotive, I'm pretty sure. She thinks she's just invulnerable. Nothing can hurt her because she's a toddler, you know? That's not the case, of course. Still come home sometimes and find her with this teething thing. She's wrapped in her mother's arms, and she's just sad, you know, just having a tough day with these two. Other times, you know, she slides off the couch funny, startles herself, and now she's in tears looking for help. But it doesn't stop her. She still goes back to doing it. There's still that confidence and that fearlessness. And that's a toddler, right? That's what they are. And I sometimes wish, couldn't I just bottle that? Couldn't we bottle that fearlessness, that confidence, that sense of they can just do anything they want completely free of any help? Just do it yourself, figure it out, see the world, you know? That's to make me happy, you know? My daughter's confident. My daughter's fearless. Something I strive for, you know? In the workplace, they call that like an entrepreneurial spirit, someone who goes above and beyond that call of duty. They take risks, they get the rewards, you know, because they go for it. They're exceptional at their job, not just competent, they're good at it. They're good at their life, too, you know. We look at them, and we're just like, man, they got it all together. I wish I could have that. That's what we want in our leaders, and I think that's probably what the community in this town would have seen in Jairus, the leader of that synagogue. He's probably a charismatic leader. He's probably a very devout individual, and I bet you everyone would have said very quickly that guy has it all together. I could use some of that confidence. But that isn't the Jairus that we see in our story today, is it? That's not the same person. All that strength, all that confidence, that perceived sense of having it all together, that stuff that they would have spoken of him, they would have said that before his daughter became deathly ill. They would have said those things about him before he had to rush through the streets in a panic, looking for this teacher. Looking for this one that they've been talking about who can do incredible things. They would have said those things about him before they found him literally at the feet of this carpenter from the Galilee, begging that he fix the situation, that he change it. Today, Jairus is desperate. He's weak. Today, he's searching desperately for something to keep it all together. What about the woman in our story as well? I think before this story, nobody would have said that she had it all together. 12 years? 12 years, it says she suffered from that ailment, from this illness that has separated her from community, that's left her exposed. It's left her feeling so vulnerable, out of control. No rest, no help. She can't figure it out. But today, this woman, who the synagogue would have described as unclean, is in the same situation as the leader of the synagogue. or in a very tricky situation. They're in a predicament I think sometimes we all feel like we've been in. Those times when, regardless of how we behave or how we present ourselves, how we strive to live, when we come down to these moments, when our worlds are rattled, when we feel powerless, we all end up in that same position. We all end up with that sense of being out of control. And we find out that we're just as scared as everyone else, as anyone else, when they're in those situations. I know this from experience because I had severe anxiety probably from about the third grade until my first year of graduate school and seminary. It was bad. It was I'd feel ill at the idea of like a changing situation, starting a new job, starting new classes, getting new coursework. If something was out of my control or I didn't think I could grab it and control it, I felt just sick. God bless my wife for marrying me, even though she knew that stuff. I mean, she had to see that panic, that dread I had for new situations. And then that all changed. In the first year of seminary, I got to travel to Haiti. And I'm sure some of you have heard this story where I traveled to Haiti and I was there when the earthquake happened. And everything changed in that moment. Something about that realization of my own vulnerability, something about being in that refugee camp, wondering how much water we had, really showed me my utter dependence on my God, that I was absolutely powerless in some situations. I thought it would make me, in this situation, more scared. My wife worried about that when I came home. Something different happened. What I found is I was actually feeling rather fearless. I was being told by professors and supervisors that I had a non-anxious presence. It's the same person who like a month ago would have been sick before entering that classroom was being told he's got a non-anxious presence. It's a little odd. It kept happening though. I kept feeling like nothing could touch me. I felt indestructible. I felt invincible, invulnerable. It's like somehow knowing that I was vulnerable, somehow knowing that I couldn't control everything around me, made me confident in the unknown. And for whatever reason, I started getting this feeling like I could do anything. I started taking opportunities, started taking risks that I never would have taken before. I started, a few months later, I'm interviewing with Phil, talking about this internship site, and he's describing how unbelievably difficult it is, and how much I'm going to be preaching, and how much I'm going to be teaching, and doing this stuff on my own. And typically, I think my old self would have been like, all right, let's find an easier gig. But I'm thinking to myself, well, what's the worst that could happen? It's like it's another earthquake, what's going to happen? I can handle this. This is fine. Let's do it. Let's go for it, And I think that's why I got the gig. I think Phil was like, he seems excited here. Like, let's let him do this move. But I was ready. I wanted this because the reality is I thought I'd risen above my own vulnerability. I really thought nothing was ever going to rattle me again. Nothing. It's not really the case, though, is it? They never stopped happening, do they? Because that wasn't the case when my daughter was born the next year. She was born. We were so excited for that. I was so happy about that. And the minute she shows up in the world, they take her away. They take her to the intensive care unit because she's aspirated too many fluids and she can't breathe on her own at this point. They tell me, unless she's fully intubated, unless we're breathing for her, she can't get enough. She can't get enough air to survive. And we're going to have to work really hard to try and clear that up. And feel so invulnerable when the doctor said that although this is their bread and butter, they do this every day, your daughter is very, very sick, they said. She's very ill, and this is very serious. Those delusions that I had of somehow transcending my own vulnerability were dashed in that moment. That moment, I like Jairus, I was there too. I was begging my God. I was begging him to change this, to heal my daughter. I was weak. I was powerless. I was terrified. I felt like my happiness, I felt like my life, my entire sense of control had everything riding on this moment right here. If God doesn't fix this, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where I'd be. This is hardly the feeling that I ascribed to a leader. Hardly a feeling that I thought made me feel anything Christ-like. I felt weak. And I started asking myself, where is my faith? However, my question is that feeling, is that admittance, is that antithetical to our gospel? And I have to say now, having experienced that, no. No, definitively I can say, no, it is not. That desperation feeling is not far from the gospel. It isn't anti-gospel at all, because the truth of this gospel, the truth that we really don't like to realize, is that this whole experience, all of this, is shaped by our own vulnerability. It's shaped by our weakness. It's shaped by our needs, because, let's be honest, being Christ-like does not mean that we move above despair, above our own sadness. As we saw when Jesus wept. He wept at the tomb of Lazarus when his friend died. Being Christ-like does not mean that we need to somehow transcend our weakness, move above our own fear, and become fearless. Because we read about Jesus himself sweating blood in the Garden of Gethsemane, terrified of his impending arrest, asking that God take this cup away if it be his will. And today's story, two people in desperation seek the one who they believe, the one who they hope can rescue them. When they encounter Jesus, when they meet him, he doesn't scold them for their desperation. He reveals to them that there is faith here, that it is their faith that has made them well. It's a faith that is revealed in this courageous act of seeking him. There is courage in that, of seeking him in the midst of their fear, and in their sadness, in their desperation, in our own crushing vulnerability. There is courage reflected in Jairus rushing through the streets, revealing to that whole community the truth. He's not the man they thought he was. He's not the man maybe he thought he was. He needs help. He doesn't have it all together. He's not invulnerable or fearless. He's just like them. He is a father. He is a father scared that he won't be able to keep it all together if he loses his daughter. There's courage reflected in the woman who, after 12 years, trying so hard, giving everything she could to fix this problem herself, consulting physicians, spending the money, finding out it got worse. She has nothing, and she goes for broke. She risks it all, risks the scorn of going out into that village, and she goes there and decides to go for broke and find this one that they've been talking about. She's going to find him. She's going to believe. She's going to hope that he can change this. I think there is a courage and faith that's being shown here by each and every one of you coming here. Coming to this place, taking part in these confessions, in this meal, in these prayers. Essentially what we're doing is we're confessing that we need this. We're not the same without it. We need this meal. We need God to hear these prayers. We need God to change the situation sometimes, because we confess that we cannot do this on our own. There's courage in that. There's courage in showing up and saying these things. But what's more amazing is that in doing this, in coming to God in this perceived weakness, we're met with love. Unbelievable love, because our God doesn't see it as weakness. Our God sees courage. Our God sees faith. Our God sees something that moves us here. Our God then takes us by the hand in those moments. He invites us to get up. Come to the table. And we experience healing. I say thanks be to God for that.